Welcome back to First Glance with Jody, Vance. Today is week 2, if you will, of what will become a weekly conversation with the guru himself. He is the president and publisher of Equity.GURU. His name is Chris Parry. Chris, always good to chat with you.
Jody, Vance, you are my favorite person.
It always sounds so formal when we do these intros, but it's kind of on brand. But really, we're friends.
We're just hanging.
We're just hanging. And what I love about you are why I work with you is because you are an ideas person. You are trying to break through what has been sort of the establishment. Nothing wrong with the established, but when the establishment excludes some and gives others a leg up, it just seems unfair. And one of the things that really pulled me into being a part of Equity.GURU is trying to level that playing field a little bit. And today's topic is really important to that. And I think you can be a good instructor here when it comes to trying to help CEOs connect with those that they may be missing.
Yeah, we're coming out of COVID finally, and so investor conferences are a thing again. The Cambridge House Vancouver Resource Show is happening in January, and usually that's a place where all the white balding males of the city combine to discuss which mining exploration deal they're going to put their money in the hope that they don't have to eat cat food next year. I have been known to do keynote speeches at these events that have titles like 5 of you guys in this room are going to be dead this time next year, so we better get some kids in. Or, hey, you guys think young people aren't interested in mining, but my kid is at home playing Minecraft. And usually, I expect those talks to be featuring people leaving the room, or at least saying, hey, do you know which one of us is going to die? But generally they're standing room only, and I can only think it's not because I'm attractive. It's because the average public company CEO has one really big question that never really gets properly answered, and that is, how the hell do I get a younger investor behind my company? We've got a lot of people have had, crazy ideas. Hey, maybe we should treat the First Nations right, or maybe we should have some women in the company, or hey, stay with me here, but maybe we shouldn't rape and pillage the environment. But generally speaking, what they do is they toss a bit of money at somebody who says, hey, I know Instagram, and that money's never heard from again. And, all they get out of it is 10 posts saying, hey, fellow kids, let's go and invest in some mining that get roundly ignored. So when we started Equity.GURU, basically we were trying to provide an answer to the question, how do we speak to a younger audience in a way that they don't find LOL-ish.
Right.
You
just sounded old right there.
Right?
So I mean, you and I are too old, but that's like
yeah.
you coming to me and saying, I need you to speak to women because I'm a dude and you're not.
Yeah.
And I'd like you to speak to women. It's like, how do we get CEOs of all walks? But I mean, let's be honest, the mass majority are, as you described off the top. How do we shift the mindset? So how do we teach CEOs to connect to that audience without it just being a box that they checked on the inclusivity HR form?
Well, so you remember when we first talked about maybe working together, the first thing that I put forward as the reasoning for it is because we have a larger than expected group of female viewers, readers on our website. I think it was because we tried to get behind the terminology a little bit and be less inside baseball than a lot of our competitors. But I realized that there's an audience out there that was really just begging for content that was for them. And it's not up to me to write that content, because then I'm faking. I will admit that earlier in my writing career, I did write the entire content of a Chicago-based women's dating magazine until the publishers realized that Chris wasn't short for Christine.
No way.
Summerly fired me.
I love that story though, but you pulled it off. Because you also, when you say that you're, an older person like I am, old in the air quote sense, when I read your newsletter on Equity.GURU that has sauciness and sass and unapologetic frankness to it, and it includes visuals that are completely unexpected in a market report of any kind,
right.
I'm not a mile wide and a mile deep into markets by any stretch of the imagination. I consider myself a humble learner, if you will, on this level. But I get your writing. Like when you're putting your newsletter together, and I've seen some of the competitors or those that came before you in the newsletters, and I don't understand one damn thing they're saying. They're speaking in acronyms that I don't know, and businessy things that make me feel like I'm dumb. Yours, like if you work in Bugs Bunny into yours most of the time, which I mean, I can totally get behind.
Yeah. Well, look, we went to a mining conference in Toronto a couple of years ago, our whole group. And I was walking along with one of my younger guys, a kid from only a couple of years out of India, and really smart economist, value his opinion on companies as much as anybody's. And he stopped next to a company, and I'll name them because, screw those guys. It was a company called White Gold. Perhaps unsurprisingly, they had white in the title. But he went up to them at their booth and said, hey, so explain to me, what it is that you have that's different from everybody else here. And the guy that he was talking to, who I assume was an executive of the company, or at least IR, said, well, real investors know. And our guy was like, well, I'm a real investor. I invest. I'm just young and, brown. But I'm asking you a serious question. Why can't you give me an answer? And this guy was like, you know what? Do your own research. Just completely blew him off. And so, my thinking was, this is the problem encapsulated, right? A whole bunch of companies that think there are older investors out there and we're competing for those investors. Well, congratulations. 2,000 other public companies are competing for those investors.
Yeah.
Now, that leaves another 75% of the population that
untapped.
you're looking at.
Yeah.
Let alone the 50% of the population that are women, right?
Yeah.
So you've got all these companies driving into this tiny little box and just competing for that $10,000 that some dude with a walker is clutching with his fist.
Yeah.
What about the guy who actually goes to work, makes a bit of money, doesn't have kids yet, and if he loses his money, he can just go work again, right? It's not the last $10,000 he's ever going to earn. So there's this massive potential group. And when we first started, nobody was interested in it. And the number of people in the business who said, but young people don't invest, what are you doing? Or, oh my God, you swear on your website, no one's ever going to respect you. It's just I don't want your respect. I'm not interested in you at all. There's an old marketing theory that if you're selling shovels, you don't want to market them to little old ladies who garden because that market is already established. You want to market them to the ends of the spectrum, right? On one side, young women who might want to eat organic food for wellness. On the other side, muscly dudes who might think shoveling dirt is going to help them get bigger, right? If you can hit those sides, you own them, and the middle takes care of itself. Yeah. So as a public company, if you're trying to get the most investment into your deal, you don't aim for the established market. You go around the outside to the riches in the niches. If you can get the young people interested, or the women interested, or the brown guys interested, or people with one eye who walk funny interested, go find a niche that nobody gives a rat's about, own it, and then as your stock starts to climb, then the mainstream starts looking at you anyway.
And while you're talking about this, it literally in my mind, I'm thinking about the subject matter of mining, and all of the CEOs that I've discussed their businesses with, they always talk about drilling samples, right? Being nearby something that hit big. So we're drilling near there because what a great, if that's there, that's established. And then we're going to go and search. But CEOs who drill to just the one investor are drilling in the same hole over and over and over again, as opposed to tapping in and missing the mother lode that's right next door.
Great
the mother lode. Just saying.
Yes. Great analogy. Look, I talked to one great little mining small cap about a year and a half ago. And I stopped to talk to them because I was at this conference, was it probably before COVID? And every backdrop of every booth was the same. We have a map. We got a picture of a big truck that we don't actually own yet. We got a picture of some guys in some hard hats and some tiny little writing, right? And then there's 90 of them all in a row. And then you've got one who had salmon on the backdrop and an illustration of where they were doing their business, and basically an explanation that we're going into a polluted, crappy area where a previous mining company had filled in the salmon run. And first thing we're going to do is restore the salmon run. And when the salmon run is back, then we'll start cleaning up the next site. And as we clean up all these sites, we're going to test what's there, stick a drill in there, make sure that we're not missing anything. And when we're done, we'll know everything about this area, but the environment will be back where it needs to be. First Nations will be happy. The government's happy. Like, I was really interested in this company because I thought, I don't want to be stereotypical here, but, male investors tend to be traders. Female investors tend to be investors.
Yeah.
And a real good base for a company needs both. And if all you're worried about is the guys that are going to run your share price up 20% today and then dump it 20% tomorrow, you're missing out. The female investor base is a stronger hand, right? If they like the story, then that becomes as important as the potential for profitability. Because quite frankly, and I agree, I don't want to be invested in bullets. I want to be invested in bulletproof vests, right? I don't want to be invested in destroying the environment. I want to be invested in retaining the environment. If I can make money curing cancer, then fantastic. That's where I want to be. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are just quiet. They're not on Twitter boasting about their wins and losses. They've got their RSP and they're just kind of like, okay, tell me an interesting story.
Right.
Not the same story that everyone else is telling, but why are you different from the last one? And I'll say this about the younger investors. If you walk down any main street and you see craft breweries and you see old-timey barbershops and you see artisan butcher shops, what you're seeing is a younger demographic wanting integrity in how they do business, right? They don't want to drink Molson. They want to drink something that someone has sat with and nurtured and tried to do differently and better, and that the money will actually make a difference to a local community rather than some nameless corporation. Investors are the same. They want to invest in good people, good stories, businesses that they would do business with. And so if you want to actually get in touch with that younger crowd, the feminine crowd, the investor crowd, you need to be different. You need to be local. You need to be doing something that actually makes the world a better place, not just tapping into a trend and trying to extract what you can before you shift to the next thing, right? So, and you can do that in mining silver as much as you can do it cutting up chicken wings.
For me, exactly what you just articulated there is why First Glance with Jody Vance was born. We were trying to find the niche for this. And I'm not an expert in markets, but I am going to give myself a pat on the back here. I am an expert in pulling a story out of someone.
Right.
And I have met some unbelievable CEOs of everything from AI to mining to tech companies and security. And at first they're all like, what is this all about? I've not seen this yet. Give me an idea of what we're doing. And I'm like, we're sitting at the kitchen table and we're having a chat and you're going to tell me about yourself and your company. Because I want to know who you are and why my hard-earned money belongs invested in your company. And I think you probably have a story, and people do. Everybody does have a story, unless you're just in it for the pump and dump or whatever it is, right? Like you've taught me that.
And what's the first struggle that you always have with these interviews? It's the guy that wants to sit there and go through his investor deck and give you his presentation that he's given to every broker in town, every money guy in town.
Yeah.
So as you can see on page 32 of my slide deck, God.
No slide decks allowed. No, we don't even allow the PR people to hover in the room anymore. We used to have 6 squares on Zoom. I can't wait until we get in a studio and we'll just be having the back and forth conversation in person. But we used to have and now another member of the board wants to be there now. And I'm like, no. Everybody out. Everybody out. Yeah. I'm going to have this conversation so they're not worried about maybe saying something that Doug over there or Todd over there doesn't want them to say. It's like, no, we're just going to chat. And if there's something that you don't like, we can take it out and post it. We've never done that. We've never done that. Not one time. And I don't invest. I don't invest in the companies that are on First Glance with Jody Vance as an ethical piece. I wish I could. There are a couple that are like, whoop, damn.
Well, I think that what happens generally in those interviews is the unexpected thing for these guys is they discover their story.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because everyone has an origin story. Hey, we got this property for 20 grand from an old drunken farmer who didn't realize what he had, and our geologist stumbled over the back 30 and found some gold. Or this has been in litigation for the last 30 years and it finally got out of litigation, and now we're like, there's always an origin story, and these guys blow straight by the interesting stuff to get to the, well, we have a drill program with 18 holes expected and 3,200. Like, ugh. Tell me the time that a bear chased your guys off the property. Tell me about the time that you thought it was done for and someone came in with some cash to keep it afloat. Tell me about the time that, you know, your marriage broke up because you're putting too much time into it. Like, there's interesting stuff here that makes you someone that people will support.
Relatable. You
bet on the jockey, not on the horse.
Yeah.
There are guys out there that I know, every single company they do, that they put forward, they're going to work in, they will give her until it's done. Like, I look at Kevin Smith at Gold Mountain. That dude is going to make that thing a producer, and there's just no two ways about it. And people, when they talk to him about it and they get the differentiator, which is, we're not going to raise money for 10 years and stick drills in the ground every summer. We're going to just go where we know the gold is and we're going to produce. Yeah. Fantastic. Here is my money. You're different from everybody else, right?
Yeah.
But I could name another 60 companies that are in the same space that I would just look at and just say, like, why you? Why am I going to give money to you? So, you know, getting back to that, like, you know, getting in front of younger people, it's proving to them that you've got integrity, right? Proving to them that your plan isn't destructive, that your plan is actually going to make the world a better place. And frankly, if your company doesn't have a plan that will make the world a better place, you haven't thought about it enough. You want to be around in 25 years, not done in 2. But you got to show people that you're not afraid to drop an F-bomb. You're not afraid to explore your personal life and the impact that this might have on it, or the fact that, you know, you're trying to cure cancer because your mom died of it. Like, hit me in the heart. Here's some more money, right? Like, the key to the younger crowd is not Wall Street bets. It's not trade. It's not to the moon, anything. It's not, you know, phantom accounts on Twitter or doing a dance on TikTok. That ain't it. It's just honesty, integrity, differentiators, being a net positive and not a net negative. That's it. That's the core. And that's what we started Equity Guru with. It's why we've sometimes said negative things about people that are paying us money. Yeah, because then you know we're telling the truth, right?
I love that. We need to just, before we wrap up this, we'll do this edition. We'll continue doing these weekly, obviously, because it's so fascinating and time goes by so quickly. But I do love that when we first sat down, because we've known each other from our prior lives in radio, and you as an investigative journalist, which you use your investigative skills on what you're reporting on now, for lack of a better word, the newsletters that you do. And you just said, like, there are companies who pay you money to report and investigate them. And then sometimes it is, and here's what's wrong with it, and here's what's wrong with it, and here's what's wrong with it. And then they're like, oh shit. And then they go back and fix it.
They go back
and then you write, you know what? They went back and they fixed it. And then what happens?
Yeah. And you know what we find is a lot of the time when we're taking a crap on a company, people will buy it at that point. Right? They don't want to wait till it's fixed. They're like, okay. Now they've heard the gospel.
That's right.
This is when we get in, because it's at its lowest point. It's a weird sort of reverse psychology thing, but
it works.
Look, I've only ever had one client complain, and that was our first client who didn't understand. But over time, as that client put their plan together better and became what they'd actually initially promised to be, stock went like that. So it's you can't just like stock promotion, and it's considered a dirty word, right? Because it's usually just like positive. If your company that you're invested in isn't promoting itself, they're doing you bad, right? Yeah. You need to be promoting yourself because there's 2,000 other ticker symbols to invest in. Yeah. So you need an aggressive marketing policy. But that doesn't mean that you just go pay people to say nice things. It doesn't mean you go spend $1 million in Germany to get a quick boost in your price that then disappears as the people you're working with blow out the stock that you've given them for free. Right? It's promotion is integrity. It's about saying, here's what our plan is, and here's how I can prove to you that it is legitimate and that we're legitimately going for it. And a lot of times when guys come to us and say, hey, we'd like to use your marketing services, when we explain that we expect you to actually do the work, it's like the old Homer Simpson gif, they quietly disappear backwards into the hedge.
That's right.
Right?
They Sean Spicer, Homer Simpson into the hedge.
Yeah. Which is great for us because we don't have to then spend the next 6 months talking about why our company that's giving us money is dog shit. But
right. They can just come on First Glance with Jody Vance. They can find their story here with us.
It's valuable consulting, to be completely honest. Like
I'm right there with you, buddy.
You got to learn how to talk to the media. And, I think 30 minutes does that.
Yep. I'm with you. Okay. That's all the time we have. Chris Parry, Equity Guru, publisher, president, my friend, the guru himself. Make sure you click on these other Chris Parry links that are on this fancy new website, and we'll tell you more phenomenal things. Wrap it up for now. See you later.
Cheers, JV.